Caleb, Sherrill, I'm thankful that you joined me today. Thanks for making the time, and it's been so inspiring to have conversations with you in the past. Really, we've just had one substantive conversation, I guess, in the past couple months. But shout out Jacob Moore for introducing us, and uh, just the kindred spirit that you are. There is that's what comes to mind when I think about you. Is just I'm drawn to your entrepreneurial spirit and the way that we have similar goals, similar wiring, similar drive, similar heart, and it's a great encouragement. So I'll start with that and just say thanks and excited to chat entrepreneurship, PEO, all of the above, whatever we get to. I mean, we've got enough content as I probably put in my outline for you to cover multiple episodes, but we'll see what we get to today. And maybe let's just start with who you are. Give us a little introduction of kind of where you've come from a little bit, maybe where you grew up, where you went to school, and then kind of your career journey. And then we'll jump into the details.
Well, first of all, thanks, Andrew, for bringing me on. It's been fun getting to know you, and I look forward to spending more time with you, brainstorming. Uh, the question you've asked could take me forever to tell, so I'll try to keep it brief. Uh, so first of all, I grew up in Russia, and you heard that right, Russia in the European side. 8 years there. Moved back to the U.S. when I was 10 years old, so got to see the world. Lived in Turkey for a little bit of that time too, and so uh, I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Australia. So family is spread out across the world. I've got first cousins in the United States, Norway, and Australia. So that's something we could get into and spend a ton of time on, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about entrepreneurship and
We'll do another podcast episode on third culture kid
yeah,
experiences, maybe.
100%. We definitely could.
Yeah.
And yeah, played soccer in college. Loved that. Went to school for general business. Uh, and fun fact about me, I so I'm on the younger side, but right at the end of my schooling, COVID started,
Mhm.
and I actually moved back, and I still have 3 business classes, to finish, like, my degree. So you could see me as a dropout potentially if you'd like to. Feel free to, run with that if you'd like. I'd planned on getting back to it, and I still do actually to this day, and, I've just seen a lot. I've had a lot of success in a lot of different areas. I've had a lot of failure actually too, though, so,
Mhm.
and just haven't had the time to go back and finish those last classes, during that transition. So I'm very close to just a general business degree, but so
Mhm.
far that's not been a problem for me. The
And you
world's
went to you
changed.
were you were at school at what college or what university?
Trinity International University. It was a small private school north of Chicago, and yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it. It was really cold, uh, and but yeah, I loved soccer, loved training, loved the team aspect of that. Won newcomer of the year first year, and really a lot of those guys I still am in connect with today. And
Mhm.
so, but moved back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where my dad's side of the family's from, and love it here. And I don't see myself going anywhere from Charlotte, even though we have a national reach as a firm.
Mhm.
Charlotte is home for me.
Mhm. Okay, so then from COVID times on, when you transitioned back home, what was the where did you go from there? What was the brief description of all the different I know you've done a lot, dude.
Yeah,
The different chapters though.
d- tough transition. So I guess junior year, I had interviewed for a job with DR Horton, large home builder. I wanted to get into real estate, and I knew the city manager really well. And so I went and got my real estate license while in college. Okay. Then interviewed. She said, as soon as you finish school, you got a job here in new home sales, which would be a fantastic job. I would have been one of the youngest guys there, right? They typically take people with more experience that have been a realtor for a while because you have all this inventory. It's a really great first job. That being said, COVID happened, hiring freeze happened, couldn't get hired, right? They
Yeah.
weren't hiring anybody because we didn't know what was going to happen in the world, right? So that was tough. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, what do I pivot to? I know that I'm good with people. I like sales. Uh, what's something high ticket I could sell? And actually, this connects back to in college. I worked at Lululemon, and that's funny because nobody knows anybody that worked at Lululemon in retail. But honestly, I loved their clothing, and it was too expensive when I was playing soccer, and so I got a job there. And what's funny is, um, there was an Audi dealership right nearby. Really, really one of like the best in the United States because we were in an extremely rich zip code. The sales manager and the sales team would come in all the time to buy pants, and I typically took care of them. If you don't own a pair of ABC pants or commission pants for Lululemon, fantastic pairs of pants. Um, Shout out Lulu. That being said, the sales manager, after a few times of coming in the store, tried to convince me to drop out of college to come and work at Audi. He was like, "You can easily make six figures at Audi. You know, your average person out of college is making 50, 60K. I can almost guarantee that you're going to make 100, 200K your first year if you just come work for me." I said no. I said, "That's crazy. My parents would kill me." But that kind of stuck with me. And so I ended up cold calling up the local Audi dealership, got a reference from another dealership that was connected, and sure enough, they hired me.
Wow.
And I started selling Audis. First month, I was on the floor. I won. Um, I beat everybody else that had been there in terms of sales. Continued to excel there. Really enjoyed my time. Made really good money for a I guess 21, 22-year old. It was awesome.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna try to jump and skip because I know we have a lot of questions. Essentially, I still wanted to get back to real estate slash what I didn't realize at the time is I wanted to get back to entrepreneurship or get back to building something. And so after about a year there, I felt a little bit of a plateau in the sense that it it was the same thing over and over again. I was really killing it, but I wasn't really growing, learning. There wasn't a space for me to move up because there was just
Mm,
so many people in front of me. And so I actually left a 200,000 a year job for a mentor was building a small land development company, and he said I can pay you 2K a month and a little bit of profits. So
mm,
and I don't have benefits and I don't have anything for you. So I'm leaving a job where like some months I'm making 25,000 a month um uh to $2,000 a month, a little bit of profits, which that didn't turn out to be much at all, and no benefits. But for me, it was it was the right move because I knew it was going to put me on a path towards what I really want to do, which is build business, right? And so I jumped ship, which looking back, maybe I should have stayed a little bit longer at Audi and saved up a little bit more money. Um, or even done a transition in between potentially. But I wouldn't be where I am today if I wasn't for that. Fast forward, I ended up starting my own land development company because someone approached me and said, "Caleb, hey, if I put the money up, do you think you could?" I did do that for about a year. Learned that was my own entrepreneurial journey. It's called Solid Rock Investments. Bought and sold land. Learned a lot about my weaknesses. I have a lot of them, Andrew. I've got some cool strengths, but man, there was so much learning. We could unpack that
mm,
another day, but um, eventually that led to I met a doctor who was buying single family homes, and he had about 12 or 13 or so homes, and essentially he was decreasing his shifts. Lots of doctors, they they have golden handcuffs is what it's called.
mhm,
They aren't really taught anything about financial literacy, and they struggle in the sense that their lifestyle matches what they make, so they're just stuck to their job. Mark was the opposite way. He ended up having a bunch of physicians approach him, say, "Hey, how are you decreasing shifts? We want to like do what you're doing." And he couldn't really scale that. He had his third kid on the way. And so he, myself, and another physician started a small real estate private equity firm where we raised capital from physicians to then go buy minority positions in large apartment complexes.
Okay.
Uh, and man, was that a journey learning how to do that, talking to tons of accredited investors and looking at pro formas. I had a decent understanding of real estate, but that was, man, it's alternative investments. I don't know, Andrew, if you've brought anybody on the podcast for alternative investments, but that space from an investing standpoint is incredible. And there's actually, uh, most billionaires, a lot of their money is in alternative investments, whether
Oh,
that's, business, real estate, oil and gas, energy. There's like all of these different really cool alternative investments. They're just typically you have to be accredited. Uh, um, they're not for the faint of heart. You need to be able to be consistent in how you invest for it to make sense. And this is not investment advice. I'm not a, licensed um, uh, investment person. That's not the correct term, but anyways, cool category. I'll probably be an investor in alternatives for probably the rest of my life because of what I learned from
mhm.
my time there. But I can pause there because
No,
now
that's
it
great.
leads
It's
to the
great.
next thing.
From there, did you jump into what you're doing now, or did you had another chapter in between?
No, I jumped into what I was doing now.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha,
so
gotcha. And you right now you are the founder of Pillar PEO
correct.
with
Pillar PEO Advisors. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, advisors is important because there's a big distinction between what we do and an actual PEO, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, founded Pillar PEO Advisors. It's funny, the story there, just real quick. Both my previous journeys, I'd been approached, right? So, um, gentleman approached me, says, "I'll put the money up to start this." Mark Smiley approaches me, says, "Hey, I need someone to help build this because I don't have the time, but I see a need." At this point, I was a little bit burnt out, to be honest, and was like, I might just go get a corporate job again, right?
Yeah.
Ryan Holmes, I was interviewing with them for their land department, right? And I knew a guy there, so I probably could have got that. There was a couple like more established startups, above 20, 30, 40 employees that wanted me in sales. But out of the blue, I was in this thing called Faith, Family, and Business. It was just some business owners that spent time together. And one of the guys in there approaches me and says, "Hey, Caleb, uh, I want you to meet two business partners."
Hmm,
I assume they're going to be the two business partners of his current business he owns. He owns a very successful brokerage here in Charlotte. It wasn't. It was these two other random dudes, one in Jacksonville, Florida, one here in the Carolinas. What I didn't know about this dude was that on the side, outside of their business, they had started two other companies and then backed like an entrepreneur like myself, almost like angel investing, but they then met with you like, once a month. They made introductions, but it was your baby. You were the
hmm,
CEO. So they actually approached me and said, "Caleb, we see a really great opportunity in the HR space, right? With PEOs. PEOs we think are going to continue to grow significantly. And I can get into what a PEO is for the audience
yeah,
shortly.
yeah, we
The,
can get there.
I think there's going to be huge need here for like advisors with integrity to come alongside and guide these small to medium sized business owners in buying PEO. So this buying process, right, which is quite complicated, and simplifying it. And we think you're the right guy for that. And we'll put the money up if you're interested in building this.
Hmm,
Okay. So, um, at first I was like, "Oh, it's another thing where I've got to build," which is like, I was a little bit burnt out. The exciting thing to me though was the previous two people, they were not like Mark was not an entrepreneur in that. I mean, he was, but he wasn't like a sophisticated entrepreneur. He's still like an ER doctor. That's what he was trained for. He still was in the hospital. These three guys, two of them had exited companies that they'd started at private equity. They were running very successful businesses themselves. They'd built two others on the side. So like, the only reason I like really was considering it when they was because of their experience. And I
mhm,
knew that yes, I'm going to have to build it, but I'm going to have these guys in my corner that have been there and done that, that they know these things, that they know how to build it, because that's where I was struggling is like I mentioned weaknesses in the beginning. I still was challenged with my weaknesses. And I felt that for the first time, maybe I'd have the team to do really, really well.
sure, sure. Yeah, man, there's so much I'd love to double click on there. I mean, maybe going back just to clarify on the real estate ventures that you were a part of, are those still, I guess maybe I didn't hear the end of those or I didn't catch the end of those. For clarity's sake, did those remain to this day? Are you
Yeah.
still involved in some of those
Yeah, so we still
entities? Okay.
own a quarter of that company, and
Okay.
we are in, 9 different projects.
Okay.
They're larger real estate projects that are, run on 5 to 7-year, shot clocks, right?
Hmm.
We could sell them earlier, but, yeah, I'm still involved and an owner in multiple real estate projects across the East Coast. So we got Texas, Indiana, North Carolina, South Carolina is where all our
Okay.
projects are, and we've just slowed down, and we don't uh, we're kind of a fund manager in that we team up with these large sponsor operators that need help on the equity side. So they run the whole deal, right? They
Hmm.
do the asset management. We just sit in and meet with them quarterly or biannually to make sure things are going smoothly, communicate with our investors alongside of them. So it's it, if we don't continue going and raising money, the business kind of sits and you don't have to do too much once
Sure.
you have all of this established, obviously. But there was just some challenges there in the sense that in the alternative space, a lot of times you pay what's called a preferred return to your investors, which is essentially to keep it simple, until our investors make 8%, we make no money. We were buying assets that cash flowed around that.
Hmm.
So we don't make money outside of an acquisition fee, really, and maybe a little asset management fee until year 5 or 7.
Okay.
So we get this huge payday down the line for us as the fund manager.
Right.
Uh, but it takes a while. So if you're not raising a decent amount of capital, like a good amount of money, it's hard to keep overhead and salaries while doing that,
Hmm.
because you end up having to chase deals, uh, rather than be able to be really picky about the deals that you're choosing. So we kind of shifted to, and that's when that transition from me being, salaried, working for the company as a owner/employee, we
Hmm.
made that shift. Um, but we hired overseas in the Philippines. It was a really cool journey. Learned so much that I think will majorly impact the rest of my life. But yeah, there's still an owner there, still doing things, just very little.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Going back to the Audi dealership in Chicago, or really the Lululemon, were you selling in a loop, like downtown when you were working for Lululemon, or were you selling on the north, like on the north
Yeah,
suburbs?
north suburbs. There's
Okay.
a Gurney Mall, a Gurney
Okay.
Mill, Gurney Mill.
Okay.
That's where I was at,
Okay.
and it was great. Honestly, awesome college job. They paid us well. We got commission. They gave us $250 a month on a debit card for gym memberships too,
Wow.
because you
Wow.
to, sweat, right? And so
Yeah.
I had a lifetime membership and a core power yoga membership.
Wow.
Man, yeah, it
That's
was
fantastic.
it was great.
Yeah, I was asking because I actually go to the gym closer to downtown here in Chicago myself, and there is an Audi dealership right across the street, I believe.
Yep.
And so it was going to be a quick crazy coincidence if that was the same Audi dealership that was approaching you, but it
No,
sounds like it was more north.
yeah,
So
more.
yeah. Okay. And then, um, I guess, I mean, all of this really leads into, I mean, I'm so fascinated by your pull into the entrepreneurial world, but then also like even your admission of a lot of learnings along the way. So maybe but we'll get into both of those things. But I think I'm so curious, like, where did the entrepreneur spark come for you? Like where did this come from? Was it from your parents? Like, do your family have a history of this? You know, nature, nurture. Maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah. So no, I'm the first of my kind in my
Okay.
family for
Okay.
sure. My dad's a pastor, and yeah, I think ministry is where he is at. So I didn't really see it from him necessarily, but we grew up with I don't know if you know who the Benham brothers are, but they're Christian entrepreneurs. Okay.
You know
There's
what?
what?
I've had a conversation on this podcast about them already, actually, a couple episodes ago. So that's crazy. That's crazy. It's coming around again. So yes.
Great. What was the conversation? What
Well, one of my guests actually played baseball with them back in the day. Was
great.
on the same team as them. So I
Fantastic.
believe it was in oh shoot, what college was that? Um, it may have been. I think he played lower level professional ball with
Yeah.
them, and
Totally.
he played on multiple teams. So anyway,
Great. Well, uh, I grew up in like the same city with them,
okay,
and was really close friends with their kids.
okay,
Okay. and so grew up with their kids. My brother specifically was like best friends with one of the sons
Okay.
of David Benham. Okay,
Okay.
well, I mean, we were friends with both. So David and Jason, obviously, they're twins. They've got families. They lived in the same neighborhood, and we grew up really close to them. And honestly, I watched David like my entire life. I've spent more nights in the amount of nights I've spent at their house, staying the night at their house, is probably close to the same as my own house, right?
Okay.
So they were like a second family to me, and to my brother. And essentially, I watched him because he owned multiple businesses, was very successful. Obviously, they travel and speak on the Surge Conference with Tim Tebow,
Right.
with the Duck Commander, right? With like all these like uh, you know Christian entrepreneurs that are very successful, right?
Mhm.
So I watched him, and some things I got to see was how faithful he was to the Lord, how faithful he was to his wife and his family, and how present he got to be. Uh, how he was one of the most generous people that I knew. David specifically. I mean, David and Jason both were. I just like I had a close relationship with David, um, and they never really asked for anything in return. There was no strings attached to anything. I mean, they've done so much for our family. Uh, and so I just watched that growing up.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's funny, they owned a lot of real estate. And so for me, it was like, okay, real estate is the way for like freedom, to be generous, to do this. Uh, Realizing it's equity, it's ownership
Right.
that creates that. Real estate is one of those ways you can do that, but you can also own businesses and create that equity and ownership to create wealth that allows you to be very generous, that allows you to have the freedom to be more present with your family and whatnot. And so honestly, it was just modeled for me for a long time. And I wanted that. Like I was like, I want to be faithful to the Lord, and I want to eventually, when I have a family and kids, I want to love them well, be faithful to them. I want to be extremely generous, right? I want to be and yeah, no strings attached. You don't have to do anything in return, and I want to see the Lord be glorified. And so
Mhm.
that it was modeled for me.
Yeah.
Long story short, and so then seeing that, I always wanted to, and I've got plenty of stories as a kid where I was like, starting businesses or selling things, or I mean, I remember we used to play disc golf growing up, and I was always like in the woods looking for discs, and eventually I realized that there was these like ponds at these disc golf courses. I was probably like, I don't know, 14, 13, and I stopped playing disc golf because I would just jump in these ponds looking for discs, and the pond was like on a hole. So then I'd have a huge box of discs, and then as the disc golfers passed, I'd sell the discs to them for like $10 to $20 a disc, right?
Mhm.
And like I had a little mini business there on the course at Bradford Park where I would sell the discs, and even like uh, I remember I one time realized that pecans were valuable and we had pecan trees, and I like would sell bags of crushed pecans to moms at our co-op that we were at. Like
Nice.
I was always like trying to figure out how to make some money,
Yeah.
and was willing to do things people probably weren't willing to do, and it was just always so fun for me, and so I've always had that like builder spirit and willing to do things throughout my life. I
Mhm.
could tell you multiple stories in that way of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, um, in terms of what appeals to you, it's the freedom, it's the generosity, it's the ability to be present with your family. Is there anything else that comes to mind in terms of like why you're so motivated, to pursue entrepreneurship as opposed to more of a, corporate job or stable lifestyle? I mean, both can be stable, but people will people will say that entrepreneurship is much less stable, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of it is I I get bored.
Yeah.
Some of it is I do get bored,
Yeah.
and if there isn't room, because I think I would do great in a corporate job, and I have done great in a corporate
Oh
job.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, but I would need to have a lot of growth for me to stay there, and I have to have a lot of uh, places of freedom to build.
Hmm.
Uh, And so I think, I mean, I think what I've said is probably why. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'll probably leave it at that.
that's great. That's great. Okay, let's talk about your wiring. Let's talk about your strengths and your weaknesses a little bit. We don't have to spend a lot of time here, but I think for many watching, and even my own journey, I've done a lot along the way to try to discern, some of those strengths and weaknesses to help me discern where I need to plug in. And there's some of us who are shoot, fire, aim people, and some of us who are, gonna spend a little more time. I'm definitely on the side of things where I'm probably gonna overanalyze a little bit, but I do think it's still a very valid question, and one that a lot of people will be asking is, yeah, what do you think? What strengths do you have that really make you effective with this? And then what have you learned about your weaknesses as well?
Strengths, I do think I see risk a little bit differently.
Okay.
I have ADHD. That's one thing that can be, it can be a superpower if harnessed correctly. And so,
Hmm.
most people, when they hear ADHD, they think that person can't focus. It's not true. It just means that we can hyper focus on the things that we find interesting and challenging, and the things that we don't find interesting and that are mundane. It feels almost impossible to do, right?
Okay.
And so my strengths is like, if you give me an idea, I'm like, man, I could flesh that out with you. I could probably tell you that your first 3 or 4 steps. I'd probably help you take your first 3 or 4 steps in doing it,
Sure.
right? So I'm
Sure.
quick to jump in and just like get something started, right? And get something even to like 70, 80% of the way there where it's like, okay, this is something, right? And so I've seen that throughout my life where I can be a catalyst to doing, right? I'd say that's one of my bigger strengths is that I do think my energy in a room when I'm with people, I can get people behind a vision or a mission and get people excited about something pretty easily, right? Uh, and so that can be contagious, and people want to then bring me in when it comes to collaboration or ideas or even just connections. Like I love I have a lot of energy when people are like, "Oh, you've had a long day." After my long day, I want to go to a networking event and spend time 3 hours spending time with people. And
Sure.
like, if I did admin work all day, like I've got to go to that networking event. Otherwise, I'm going to feel dead inside. And so
Right.
I think that can be a bit of a superpower.
Yep.
Sometimes I can run ashore though if I go too hard. So I'd say some of those things are my strengths. I'd say my weakness is that once it gets mundane,
Hmm.
uh, and it gets like the same old, and that's what business is create a repeatable system and process and do it again and again and again. And I think that's been one of my harder things is not continuing to chase the next shiny object or the next stream of revenue. It is that of like, okay, I did this and then I got a client and then I get revenue. I just need to do that again
Got it. Yeah.
and again.
Yep.
And that can get challenging, especially when there's a lot of administrative work in between. And in PEO, there is a lot of administrative work. And so uh, I'd say there's a great book, and I need to reread it again right now. It's called Who Not How.
Hmm.
And we as business owners or competent people, we're always asking ourselves, how do I do that? Right? Because we can figure it out, right? Like
Right.
Andrew, you and I probably can figure out a whole host of things, right?
Right.
And we probably think we might be one of the better people to figure it out. That being said, it's not true. We should almost always be asking who can help us figure this out, who's been here before, who has walked through this challenge, and delegate that or find that partner to do that. That's actually why I'm such a big fan of PEO or even just outsourcing in general. I think that small to medium sized businesses, that 5 to 500 employee count, should be outsourcing almost anything and everything that's not revenue generating, right?
Right.
And so that's I think that's something that even now I'm still trying to figure out and still continue to do, which is like when I'm struggling with something reframe from how do I fix this problem or how do I get better at this or how I learn this skill, and instead it's who can do that for me or who can help me do that, and
Yeah.
flipping that uh, is hard and still a challenge, and I still find myself doing random things that I shouldn't be doing as a business owner, and that I should have just paid a consultant to come in and do that, or I should have just found um, someone to help with that, right?
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is for you? Is that more of like is that your cost savings mind coming in? Is that your control, your desire for control? Is that your even just forgetfulness of like the possibility of doing something other than that? Like I'm sure people have many different reasons why they can't see outsourcing as well as they should, or they don't do it as often as they should. Why do you think it is for you?
Well, sometimes it's a lack of resources. Like sometimes it's true. When you're
Right.
bootstrapping, like I have some capital, but if you're bootstrapping, sometimes you do just have to do the things yourself. Uh, so in some situations, for me, that is the case. I can't afford to do it, right? Potentially. Um, as I've grown and like raised capital, and we have, we've got decent revenue coming in, right? I do have more of that ability to do that. I'd also say that I'm a problem solver. I love
Mm,
solving problems. And so that's the thing is like a new problem is this, even if it is something that's great and a problem we need to fix, it's a new shiny object that I can do that's not
sure.
this mundane task that then actually moves the business forward. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that's probably the hardest and the reason that it's because I love solving the problem.
Yep.
And I'm really good at solving the problem. And so I, I just need to get back to this and make sure that, like I can solve problems as long as, 6 hours of my day is spent prospecting, or
Yes.
like
Right.
doing something that's generating revenue for us or working on like, strategic partnerships or
Right.
like doing this, like sitting on a podcast, right?
Right.
Um, and so I think it is difficult when you're good at solving problems to just immediately go, hey, someone else can do this for me. And even if they do it at 80% of the capacity, it's
Mhm.
probably better than you doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, another question that I had from your story, and that I think many will resonate with, is I've seen this pattern as you've shared of you getting approached. You even alluded to it yourself, and I think you even mentioned it, I guess, directly. I suppose you've gotten approached 3 times now, or more than that. You go back to even the dealership kind of guy that you had a relationship with, who was like, hey, come. You've gotten recruited a lot. What would you tell young people? I mean, people that are we're pretty young, but like people who are even still in college, and you had that experience in college, and then moved into the rest of your career. What would you tell them about personal brand building, positioning yourself well for those kind of opportunities to come? I'm just resonating with how that stands out about your story.
Yeah. I think I always try to put myself in the right rooms.
Hmm.
Uh, Obviously, I'm a decently charismatic person, so if you're not super charismatic, that's gonna be tough. If people don't like you in the first place, then, like, we need to start there with your people skills and read some good books, right? Like how to, win friends and influence people and, start there and do some education around, how to care for people. I think one thing that I try to do, and I have like a little card on my desk that reminds me, and it says, "Be uh be more interested in understanding than being understood."
Oh,
Uh, I think I said that correctly. A lot of times we want people to understand us,
yeah.
and we spend less time thinking about how to understand what they're truly saying. We're just waiting for us to give our opinion. We're waiting to give our opinion, right? And we even like stop listening once we got an idea of what we're going to say sometimes.
Right.
And so spending more time asking questions. I even did things like I joined the best CrossFit gym, and I hate that I'm talking about CrossFit, because like people talk about CrossFit, but like there was like a premier level CrossFit gym that was really expensive
Yep.
in the area, and I joined it. I mean, I wanted to be fit, but I joined it because of the people that were in there. And I kind of probably couldn't have afforded it. I just probably shouldn't have done it, but, or I definitely should have, but on paper, I shouldn't have done it.
Right.
And so I think for like that branding and awareness, like educate yourself, read books. B, put yourself in rooms with other people that are further ahead and places you want to be, even if that's going to cost you a little bit of money.
Right.
Uh, uh, I'd say that some of those things were good for me and worked out well. Even the job at Audi. So that normally you can't go straight to luxury in the dealership world. You have to do like you have to work for Honda or Accord. And I worked for a really large organization called Hendrick. They
Oh,
owned like a couple hundred dealerships. Like you never can just skip straight to sales. They had guys sitting in their dealership that had been waiting for years to get to sales.
well.
The reason I got in was A, I cold called them and they thought I was cool. B, all the way back in college when I joined that CrossFit gym locally here in the Charlotte area, there was uh, a general manager of a Honda dealership that was under their umbrella, the Hendrick dealerships, that was there. I then had gotten a good relationship with him, working out with him, reached out to him, asked him to write me a recommendation letter. So now I've got a recommendation letter coming from a GM at one of their dealerships. And I'm also being proactive in cold calling and trying to get on their calendar. So I paired those two things to where it was like one interview, second interview, like 2 days later, hired 3 days later. Like it
Yeah.
was like the turnaround was insane from when I reached out, but it was because I had like put myself in the right rooms uh to get that job. That wasn't necessarily like why I've been approached all these times. I've been approached all these times just because I continue to be in the right rooms
Yeah.
with the right kind of people that have the ability to approach. A lot of times we just
Got it.
don't have people in our lives that have the financial ability to even approach us to do that, right? So
Yeah.
I always love being in those rooms and investing and being in, masterminds and all those things.
Wow. Okay. That's great. Going back to what you said about the Benham brothers, I'm sure there's some inspiration from them, maybe on this front, maybe not, but I'd love to hear you speak about your relationship with your brother. I know that is a big part of what you do right now. The Sherrill brothers, I've heard you say, is kind of
Yep.
one of the branding things that just kind of inadvertently has happened, or maybe not, maybe intentionally has happened. What is your relationship like with your brother, and how important is that to your long-term vision of business?
Yeah. Uh, I love my brother a ton, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's someone that he's younger than me, but in some ways I've looked up to him, even like spiritually, a lot of ways. And so me and Josiah, we grew up together, in bunk beds, and 2 years apart. And yeah, he was moving back to Charlotte or thinking of moving back to Charlotte from Kansas City. And I said, and I'd started the company, and it was about 7, 8 months old, and I was like, I think this is going to be great. Josiah, you should come out and work with me, right? And uh, we're different people for sure. We have some similarities, obviously with the same upbringing, but it's been cool to work together. I think there's a lot of respect and love for one another, uh, so much that we're able to handle conflict really well. We're able to push each other. Even this morning, I remember getting out of bed and just there's a client that we've been working with for a while, and I feel like I've dropped the ball a little bit there, or maybe a lot there. And he just was pushing me to like, just be honest and transparent with that client that we need to get back. It's just like some answers that they've asked for. We just need to get some responses to them. But anyways, he's pushing me in those ways. I'm pushing him also, and so the dynamic is fantastic. I think one day he'll end up being a pastor, or he'll move overseas and live
Mm,
somewhere, sharing the gospel. So I don't know how long I'll get to keep him, but for now, yeah, it is the Sherrill brothers, and it's really, really fun.
yeah, yeah. That's really inspiring and cool and unique. I don't know that a lot of brothers have that experience. So I certainly hope for that one day. Actually, with my brothers too. We'll see what happens. But that's very cool. Okay. Briefly on the investor side of things, you've had investors along the way. You've had a lot of partnerships. I mean, even we could. I don't know exactly the arrangement with your brother, but even that in some ways probably feels like a partnership sometimes. Um, what would you say about the pros and cons of partnership to someone who's starting out and considering doing it solo versus doing it with other people?
Yeah, I think expectations is huge. I've partnerships. Uh, I've had good partners all the
Hmm.
way, fortunately.
Okay.
Um, That being said, there's been disagreements in areas where expectations weren't set up correctly. So when we got to, weird scenarios, it wasn't as fun to walk through. So I'd say like step one is expectations. Make sure that those are set for best case scenarios and also worst case scenarios. Okay. So an operating agreement is key so that you know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. I'd also say for partnerships, you got to be highly selective. In my opinion, it's gotta be someone that you've known for a good long while, for you to bring them in as a partner. Investors is different. So and obviously we probably need to make sure that we're clearly defining that too. It's
Sure.
like investors who don't have, day-to-day operations. You need expectations with them, but they're not like in the business, right? And so that's a little bit less so. But when you're bringing in a partner who actually like has equity, that's where you need to make sure that you know them really well, that you both are aligned on the vision and mission, even like other things like politics and faith, family. Like those are things that are more important than even potentially um, the business itself. If
Right.
you've some alignment across some of those categories, it could be a better relationship and a better partnership. But I
Mhm.
think expectations is the biggest thing I would point towards, and hire a good lawyer to make sure your operating agreement is solid for if this happens, then this. And so,
Sure.
uh, yeah, does that is that
No,
helpful?
that's great. That's great. Yeah, it does seem like along the way you've had a lot of both. You've had a lot of it in the partnership side of things, but then also the investor side of things. So, just wanted to get your 2 cents on that. That's good. Um, okay, so what's the long-term vision? We'll get into what you're doing right now, but like, just what comes to mind when you think about Caleb in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah. Well, the Bennett brothers talk about this concept of the path of entrepreneurship, and it starts with a or a wannapreneur, then it goes to a solopreneur, which is like you by yourself, um, an entrepreneur, and then you got a C-preneur, which is like essentially you set up the systems and processes and the people to where if you step away for a month, things keep working.
Gotcha.
Um, and so a lot of us, when we say we own a company, we really just own a job, right? And so uh, we maybe talk ourselves up too much often when you own a business. It's like, well, it's the business sort of owns you. So I'm in that transition where I'm working towards um, less of the business owning me. And so in 10 years from now, I'd love to see a lot of success in the businesses that I'm involved in. I'd love to do something similar to what the guys did for me, which is approach and support young
Mhm.
entrepreneurs and invest behind them and help. Uh, I'd love to see. I mean, I love Charlotte, North Carolina. It's just, I think long term, I want to see it thrive. I want to see the church of Christ grow, and I want to see Christ glorified. And so for me, yeah, that 10-year picture looks like my business doing really well, me being very, very generous, me taking care of my employees really, really well. Ideally at that point, I've got a family and kids. And so being really, really faithful to them in providing and loving and showing them um, what the Lord would have for them. That's what 10 years looks like for me. There's an
Mhm.
I, I I have some specific like numbers and things, but really that's it for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, yeah, no, it'd be really cool to look back on this even and go in 10 years and go see where we've ended up. It's awesome. Okay. I would love to dive into PEO as it relates to entrepreneurs because a lot of entrepreneurs are gonna be watching this, hopefully, and I will admit, I've been in the business world now for coming up on a decade, and I didn't even know what a PEO stood for. A PEO is one of those things where it seems I'm sure you get this a lot, but it can seem like a black box. I,
Totally.
I even put it in my notes here as I'm looking at this. I even put the acronym to make me remember what it was. So that's like where we're at. So, professional employer organization. Maybe let's just start with definitions. Let's start with what that is, and then we can get into. And we've already kind of experienced some of the story of your business, but any other details around that? So,
Yeah. So PEO, first of all, it stands for Professional Employer Organization.
mhm,
Okay. Now It it is exactly what it sounds like. They are professionals at employing people. That's why it's called a professional employer organization. So, um, let's say Andrew, you started a company and you were selling boots, right? You probably got in the business because you're like, man, the rest of these boots on the market are terrible. I love making the best high quality boot. And let's say you start killing it and you're making tons of boots. What you probably didn't sign up for is all of the labor laws, all of the payroll taxes, all of benefits enrollment and Cobra administration if someone leaves and or someone comes in, or workers comp claims, or all of the administrative side of HR, right? And that's what a PEO does. It
Hmm.
comes in, takes your 20 employees at your boot company, and it's going to take all of that off your plate for you. Uh, Now, what's really cool about how they do it, though, is they do it through something called the co-employment method. So essentially, they team up with you, and for the purposes of insurance, benefits, and workers' comp, they y'all come underneath their EIN for that purpose, so that every other company in the PEO, they can go on behalf of everybody to go buy the benefits and go on
Right.
behalf of everybody to buy the workers' comp. So you see huge reductions on both of those fronts if you get accepted into a PEO, right? Because you have to go through underwriting, and that's for another day. Uh, but there's a whole host of things that they do, and there's tons of PEOs, and some of them, it's more like full service. They're doing, they'll do your hiring, your firing, your onboarding. And then there's more tech driven PEOs where it's, more self-service, and you pay less of an admin fee.
Mhm.
But you still get that bulk buying benefits, bulk buying workers comp, and you get some support. And so there's like a ton of variability within PEO, but that is the short, is they do that for you, and it's crazy, the stats. Businesses on PEOs, they grow 6 to 9% faster than
Mm.
those who are not. They have 11 to 14% less turnover, and businesses on a PEO are 50% less likely to go out of business.
Mm.
So uh, there's so many good stats that I could reference, but those are probably my top three favorites. Uh, and so I'll pause for
Yeah.
yeah, and people, I guess, that are listening, like, everybody knows who ADP is, right? They're a big payroll company.
Right.
ADP has a PEO. ADP, it has standalone HR tech, right? Like, it was called an HRIS. That's just
Right.
like their payroll, ADP Run or ADP Workforce. They have something called ADP Total Source. That is their PEO. TriNet is a PEO. Insperity is a PEO. JustWorks, Rippling has a PEO. A lot of these groups have standalone technology. The PEO is where that bulk buying, this service model comes in behind and helps as you grow. And that's different than what a lot of business owners do, which is they piecemeal together their HR solutions.
Mm.
They have a payroll company, they have a benefits broker, they have a workers' comp broker. They maybe pay a legal team to help with occasional labor law changes or updating an employee handbook. Uh,
Right.
a- they maybe have a time and attendance tool or a learning management system that's separate. All those things come together into one house. So it's also huge for vendor consolidation. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I could go on. I could talk about this all day. And each category of these, it goes really deep. And
Yeah.
so,
So you said 50, you said a business that has a PEO. I want to make sure I heard this right. A business that has a PEO, the stats would say is 50% less likely to fail. Is that what
correct.
I heard you say?
Less likely to fail. Correct.
Why? Why do
Uh,
you think? I mean, I don't know if you know the
So
background of
I,
it, but
I
what?
could give you I have the study. So if anybody wants the study, an outside source did it, and very reputable. It's NAPIO. They're like the association for PEO, essentially. So they
Okay.
do a lot of, like, studies on this. A lot of it has to do with the mentality of that business owner, because if they have a PEO, that means that that company is probably, uh, you know, outsourcing some of these non-revenue generating items.
Right.
They have way, like, they're not going to get fined for, like, I mean, I can't say that 100%, but way less likely to be fined in terms of, like, hiring, firing, labor laws, making sure that you do your 940s, your 941s for your taxes on your all of your withholdings, like Cobra administration, all these things that you have to juggle when it comes to HR. They're taking care of all of that. And so there's way less problems on that front. Also, that is a huge headache for small businesses as they grow, that the business owner just hates.
Yeah.
I really don't know a single CEO that loves doing all of these things that I'm mentioning. So if they do this, they probably are also outsourcing other key things that and have that mentality to where their business is growing and more successful because they can focus more on revenue,
Mm.
and focus really less on paperwork and more on their people. Okay.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I'll pause there for a sec.
That's fantastic. Okay. So what does your business do exactly in this space?
Yeah. So When people ask me that, what I tell them is, do you know how HR is a huge headache for most business owners?
Mhm.
And that most people are
Yeah.
like, "Oh,
Right.
yeah."
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
"Oh, I hate that." We help simplify that. So we walk alongside you to make sure that your business has the best HR setup so that you can spend more time taking care of your people and less time taking care of paperwork.
Mhm.
So that's my quick pitch when I'm talking to somebody. Realistically, we're a PEO broker. Okay. So we come alongside you. We're a free consulting firm that works with about the top 40 PEOs nationally. Because PEOs are all the PEOs I work with are across all of the states. Actually, if you're multi state, it's even better because it's just additional compliance that you have to deal with. But we're a free advisor that walks alongside you, sees where your business is at, sees what you need, goes to the top 3 to 5 PEOs on your behalf, talks to all those salespeople, takes all that data to them, brings back all of their proposals, puts that all into an apples to apples comparison, showing you and making a suggestion towards, hey, I think this is the best group. Then helping you walk through implementation, and then we meet with you biannually to make sure that you're utilizing the PEO correctly, because that's a huge problem. A lot of groups, they get a PEO that can do all these great things, and then they end up doing some of the work themselves instead of just asking the PEO to do it. And then we also sit on the renewal calls to make sure that we hold them accountable. Because the industry it's broken. The sales reps for most of these PEO firms, they get paid as soon as you sign the line, a massive, huge premium upfront, and then that's it,
Hmm.
right? How our business model works is we get a small monthly fee from the PEO um, that goes on for as long as y'all stay with the PEO. So
Right.
we need you to stay happy, and we're accountable to that because we don't get it takes us about like, a year or 2, depending on the size for us to make our money back as a business.
Right.
And so we need you to be happy. We need to keep the PEO accountable. Like we're set up so much differently than the typical sales rep that just brings you on and pushes you in and then goes to the next account, right? And so incentives are aligned in that way with
Yep.
us and how our model works. And we get paid a small percentage of what that sales rep would have made because we're bringing the business, making it way easier for them.
Mhm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, quick story from my life along those lines, which I think will illustrate even what you're talking about. I think is I'm definitely one person, a type of person who likes to look at all the options and kind of be exhaustive in my search for a solution for whatever I'm looking for, and that can be a blessing, that can be a curse as well, for sure. But for example, I got a LinkedIn request from one of these recruiters I'd messaged you about. We talked about it the other night. Not a recruiter, I guess, a sales guy, a sales rep for JustWorks, and for me, it was so comforting to hear in some ways this concept from you, even now, where it's like I can see the point of what you're doing because like for me, I would be much more comfortable and much more happy if I didn't just hear from that one guy from JustWorks. If I was looking for a PEO someday, which I probably will be someday, I would love to hear the full spectrum and have someone in my corner on that overwhelming thing. So I don't know. I'm underscoring what you said. I've seen it as a business owner already, where it's like, yeah, these people do sell direct as well, but having somebody who that broker space definitely makes sense as well. Why? I mean, you mentioned some of the reasons already, but why do you think there is such an opportunity as a broker now to even offer yourself free, like you said? Like all the advice you're giving is free. Why is that an opportunity right now?
So the market currently, so there's like thousands and thousands of employee benefit brokers. Like, like in North Carolina alone, there's like 5,000 and I might
Okay.
be totally off, maybe way more than that.
Okay.
Um, because it's one product. Okay.
Okay.
PEO brokerage is hard because it is payroll, it's benefits, it's workers' comp, it's risk and compliance, it's time and attendance, it's learning management, it's change management. It's like all these different categories. So it's like something that I've had to learn a ton about and get licensed in to be able to, make recommendations on health insurance and whatnot. Um, because it's a little bit complicated, there isn't that many brokers that exist. It's about 80% direct sold. Okay.
Okay.
About 80% of the market is direct sold. These PEOs have massive sales teams. Okay. But just like insurance back in the day, we're seeing a shift where now there are advisors coming in, like myself or like my firm, and we've got a couple guys that work for my firm but where we're holding the PEOs a little more accountable than they've ever been held. And still currently, most of the business I talk to has gone direct, and they've got no idea if they're overpaying on admin. They have no idea how to negotiate the benefits. They don't know what they should use the PEO for and what they shouldn't use the PEO for. And so right now, it for me, I mean, it's a ton of learning. Like if you're not from the space, I don't know if I would suggest getting into it necessarily, or if you do, find a partner that really understands the space well. But there's a transition happening currently where groups are realizing that a PO broker exists. A lot of people I
Hmm.
talk to don't even know that exists,
Right.
and so that's great. Like if a benefits broker comes up to you and says, "Hey, like I sell group health benefits," you're like, "Great, I know 20 of you." Uh, Almost
Yeah.
everybody I talk to, they don't. They either know one other person that does what I do, or they don't know anybody
Right.
that does what I do. Um,
It's
so
good.
that is really exciting, right? To be in a place where I can go in a room and confidently know that most everybody has no idea that I exist, and
Yep.
that even a PO broker does exist.
Yeah. Yeah. So for clarity's sake, when you say you do it for free, you're making commissions off of the revenue model is commissions off
Correct.
of the company itself, like the PEO company itself paying you monthly. Um, do you worry about people coming in, taking your free advice, and then going direct?
Um, no, I
Okay.
don't. Uh, we do such a good job and a lot of hard work, and w- w- it would be, I mean, it would not be in their favor to do that because yeah, it wouldn't be in their favor to do that. And the PEOs protect us in that way. A lot of the
Okay.
times, once we've communicated to them, the PEO will tag us on it as long as
Okay.
they move in the first 6 months. I mean, at the end of the day, the client can say, I don't want that person to be representing me. But most of the time, um, I'm not worried about that. We're going to
Right.
help them so much more than they could help themselves. And so after they walk through our proposal and see what we do and see what we know, uh, yeah, I've never had a problem with that,
Hmm.
necessarily.
Yeah.
One of the harder problems is if they've gone and they've reached out to the PEOs directly first, and they've gone to like 3 or 4 PEOs, and they've like had sales conversations, and then they bring us in. That's actually much harder because
Okay.
they have direct sales teams and they have like partnership sales teams, and so then you went in the direct route, and I got to get you swapped over, and that's a different sales rep, and that can be some groups won't allow it at all.
Okay.
Once you've gone direct, they won't change you over to the broker side at all. Other groups are really friendly with that, and they're happy to do it.
Okay.
And so that's the harder piece is if you've already done some of that. So just a suggestion if anybody's listening, reach out to me first.
Yeah.
um, uh, Feel free to do like due diligence online and whatnot, but before you go and hop on a sales call and talk to multiple sales reps, just have a quick chat with me. And there's no obligation at the end of the day. So Andrew, I don't have them sign a contract
Right.
that binds them to me. At the end of the day, if they want to go do something else or they want to wait and then go direct, they definitely can, and,
Hmm.
um, so far it's not been a problem.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Um, why? At what stage of a business are people usually about that time when you would recommend them looking into a PEO?
Yeah, it depends on the industry you're in.
Hmm.
It depends on how quickly you're growing, um, uh, for sure. Typically, most POs won't let you in under 5 employees.
Okay.
Yep. They just don't really make money. Like, I mean, if they're charging you, $100 a head per month, for that, right? Like for like a 3-person company, that means that an annual contract's $3,600 for them to
Okay.
do all this work, right? Like they're just not like for, 3 to 4 grand, they're not gonna do all that onboarding, pay all those people. They're just not gonna make any money. So a lot of times you have to be at 5 employees. If you're VC backed, like I just placed a firm that was VC backed, they'll lower those minimums because if you raise $5 million, you're going to go hire a ton of people immediately. So they're
Right.
okay to like lose money for them to be a part of that rocket ship. But most of the time it's around that place. I can get you set up on a platform that grows into a PEO though. Cause there's a lot of groups, there's a lot of good payroll companies out there that can grow into a PEO. That's probably my best suggestion, and I can help you get set up on that for free. And
Okay.
I don't get paid anything for that. Um, but yeah, around 5 employees is when I'd start looking at it. Even better though is like when you start to see like a big renewal from a benefits. If you have a benefits broker and you receive a huge renewal, like would love to shop you out and see what it looks like.
Yep.
Obviously, it's a different model. You have to pay this admin fee for the service, but like we had a group that came to us where they had 30, 40 employees and they received like a 40% increase. We ended up finding them a PEO that was a 20% decrease from their current rate. So there's a 60% delta. And so like those are good. If you're multi-state or growing into multi-states, that can be something great. There's an IT firm that we just onboarded, 15 employees, new owner. He wants to acquire 2 or 3 companies, other IT firms, and he wanted to make sure that he had the right setup with onboarding, like time and attendance, all these like things, and then also that HR like know behind it because you get an HR generalist, so that when he goes and does these acquisitions, these people feel really smooth coming in. They get really good benefits, like Fortune 500 level benefits, and so like that was a good example. But I mean, it's so dependent
For
on
sure.
your industry. But I think all companies should consider it in that 500 employee range. Eventually, you do get your own ability to do bulk buying. Now, there's groups that are 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 plus that are on PEOs. Those are more anomalies, and the
Hmm.
PEOs have created a special solution just for those large clients. So we still would love to work with you if you're a large client and interested in PEO. It's just going to be a little bit of a different model because they're going to be really special in how they build that
Yeah.
project. But a lot of our groups are, yeah, in between that. And we work with private equity and, like we have a new opportunity that I'm working through that's 265 employees and it's
Yeah.
across a couple different holding codes and it's, across 30 states, like, and it's decently complicated and they're looking at PEO and I'm walking them through that transition. And so
Cool.
it can be anything small to big.
Other than employee count, how else would you define your ideal client profile for your business?
Yeah. Um, Well, this is actually something before the podcast, me and Andrew were talking about, which is how
Yeah.
dialed do you get on ICP? So I have an ICP document that has 3 different ICPs that I'm toying around with. Uh,
Nice.
one simple, it's the PEO switcher. It's a client that is already utilizing a PEO, went direct, okay? You went by yourself and you've got no idea how to make the swap, okay? And you just want someone to hold your hand and walk through that swap with you.
Yep.
We wanna be that partner for that swap, okay? Especially if you're on one of the large PEOs that exists. The next ICP that we had, is a nonprofit. We work with a decent amount of nonprofits that are typically above 10 employees, that want to spend more time working on their mission and their vision and taking care of their people and less on the paperwork, like I said. And then there's the first time PEO buyer that is in growth mode that's at 15, 20 employees and seeing massive growth. Maybe they
Mhm.
brought on new funding or they brought on new clients and they're overwhelmed. We want to be their partner in stepping into a PEO for the first time. So those are the 3 I'm working on. Industries that are great for PEO. We work really well in the professional services industry, the light manufacturing industry, and we work. I mean, I've got clients in like literally every single industry, Andrea. I'm working on figuring out if I want to be really, really specific, and I think I do. But those are
Mhm.
the 3 like different people, and then within each of those, there's all these different categories. And so, um, still thinking through a little bit of like the perfect group, but
Yeah.
those are the 3.
Well, it sounds like the opportunity is enough in the market right now that has not been an essential thing for you to do from jump. Like you've had plenty of success without identifying a like hyper niche target. Would you
Yeah,
say that's accurate?
yeah, and I think because there's so little competition,
Yeah.
uh and it's market dependent, depending on where you're at. There's more competition. The big
Okay.
cities specifically have a lot of competition. smaller cities.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we haven't had to be as particular. I do think we'll probably end up landing somewhere,
Yeah.
maybe the ETA space, like we help do due diligence on businesses that you're buying and help
Okay.
set up a PEO post transition or help manage your PEO. That's one area that I really enjoy, and so thinking about that.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's great. Okay, so for those out there who are doing something similar to you, or are even thinking about something in this space, what do you think? You already mentioned probably some of these things, but what would you say is the key to succeeding where you're at from what you've seen so far?
If you're a PEO broker?
Yeah, I mean, or any type of any type of middleman like you're talking about. I guess it would probably apply in
Yeah.
several different industries.
Oh.
Don't give away your secret sauce, but maybe give a little bit of a
Oh, I'm an
advice.
open book. Anybody can reach out to me. I think the more I've gotten into, uh, entrepreneurship and business is nobody's got really a super secret sauce, especially at our levels, right? We're doing
Right.
a lot of the same things. It's all about execution. Like I could shout it from the rooftop exactly my process, and nobody's going to go do it.
Right.
Uh,
It's true, it's true.
I'm an open book. So if anybody wants to start a PO brokerage, reach out to me. I helped a buddy start one
Oh,
out of
cool.
Philly. And so happy to walk you through and open up and share everything with you. So but I mean, early on, if you're a middleman, I mean, uh focus on revenue generating opportunities. Stop taking calls with people that you know you shouldn't be. It's like, Andrew, you probably were did you end up hopping on the call with JustWorks?
No, I did not. No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Would you be tempted to do it, right? And it's like, that is not a revenue generating
No,
opportunity. That
no,
is not great. That is when you find a who to say, no, I've actually got a who that already does that. I don't need to
right,
talk to you, right?
right.
I fall prey to that all the time where like someone will reach out that I can justify sort of, and it's like,
Right.
"Oh, this feels like an activity that's good," and it's not, and so just spend more time doing effective activities that are actually, like, bringing you revenue, right? That's probably the best thing, and then also just be really honest and do what's best for the client, because a middleman, one of the hard parts about middlemen is you're paid by these different providers, and they each pay us a little bit differently, so you can be tempted to go towards a provider that pays you a little bit more. Fortunately, the industry is decently standard across the board,
Mhm.
so that there's not a ton of, like, up or down depending on the PEO I've selected. They have similar comp structures across every single one of them, and happy to be open and transparent about that, but making sure that you're not just going to that. I think that's one of our competitive advantages is a lot of the PEO brokerages have been started by someone who worked at a PEO for 5, 10 years.
Mhm.
And so then they end up placing you with the places that they just have a really good buddy at that like
Mhm.
they are really comfortable with, even though there's probably a better PEO for them. And we came in unbiased, not building from scratch and not coming from like spending 7 years at ADP. And then I'm just like, hey, by the way, ADP is the best. It's like, no, they're not the best. They're good
Right.
for a certain client, but um, I'd probably say like really lean into how do I remove my own bias? Because I have bias, but um, try to remove your own bias as much as you can and take really good care of them. Look at what you make later, which you need to make money. So like if someone's not paying you, obviously you can't place them there, right? But
Right.
as long as they hit a standard, making sure that you're careful there.
It's great. It's great. Wow. What This has been awesome. I mean, there's so much that we even threads that we could pull on for the future. I think in terms of this episode, I think we've covered some great ground, and I think you've equipped business owners not with your own not even just with your own pitch, but with some helpful information for thinking through PEO, getting educated on it for the future. Appreciate that, and then all of your wisdom around your own journey. Is there anything else that we missed that you'd like to add around any of the topics that we covered before we kind of wrap up today?
Not necessarily. I mean, if anybody wants to reach out and chat with me, hit me up on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Caleb Sherrill. Would love to connect with you. Happy to chat with whether you're a business owner that needs this or whether you're an entrepreneur that's thinking of jumping, or leaving a W-2 and jumping into entrepreneurship. Happy to discuss that with you and support you. And uh, if you are a small business, I have something on my website called a HR headache, like quiz, and it goes through and you can answer some questions You don't have to put your email in or anything like that. It's free, and then it'll give you a score, and then it'll give you some recommendations at the bottom for some things that you can change right now to help with that headache.
Mm.
That's a fun thing to go do. I'm working on making it better and better every day as I get more data. But there's just like some fun. That's a fun thing you can go do on my website. That's free. You don't have to. Um, put your information in to get the answer. Now, if you want to, you can say skip or you can put your information in. Love to have your information, but you don't have to. So,
Yeah. No,
um,
that's great. That's great. Yeah, I just sense such a genuineness about that, genuineness to help. And like obviously people are gonna hear this and go, yeah, he's pitching himself. But I believe in um the value of knowing your value and the practice of communicating that, the practice of being unashamed about that. And I think it's validated by a genuine heart, and I know that to be true of you, and truly wanting to help people. And so I hope people will take that opportunity to go poke around if they think there's the potential of looking into something to help them with their HR. I genuinely would say that for sure. So um, yeah, I hope we can do this again, Caleb. I think I see many more collabs in the future with you. You're a great guy. I really appreciate you in my life. And yeah, just your willingness to spend some time on a Friday morning to record this. So until next time, we'll do it again. So
Great. Thank you, Andrew, so much, and looking forward to the next time.
absolutely.